Well, I heard two things, and the first thing that comes to mind is this idea of trying to get clear on what it is that we really want. And there's a lot of value in doing some very practical exercises, which could be writing in a journal, writing on a piece of paper. What are some of the different desires that I have? What are my thoughts about what's behind them? Discussing this with other people, trying to get some clarity on what's behind my interest in the spiritual path. Why am I hanging out in this TAT group? There's many different motivations that might be behind that. And it's not that some are good and some are not good. It's a matter of figuring out what are the motivations for you. What is it that you're after? And what are there other things? And there may be other things in life that would satisfy you. I don't know, but life is short, and it behooves us to figure out what is it that we're after? What do we think when we're being honest, when we're really connected with our heart, our intuition, our mind, the whole body? What is it that feels like it would bring us satisfaction of a life well lived? So explore that. It's the first thing that comes to mind. In regards to the other part of the question I heard about, well, is this accidental? Is this just grace? Does grace randomly drop upon people throughout the world, and we just don't know it, or they can't articulate what happened to them? I do not have the sense that grace is just random. I do have the sense that all people, to some degree, have a curiosity about life and their self, and that curiosity may not appear but for just a few moments in their life, or it may be something that's there day in and day out. And so perhaps grace is all the time randomly dropping here and there, but it only will have an effect if the human is reaching towards grace at the same time that grace is reaching towards the human. There has to be a meeting. It's not as if grace can just come down and do a grace dump in your mind and suddenly you're enlightened. There has to be, right? It's the picture on the Sistine Chapel of God reaching down and the human reaching up. There has to be a meeting. And that meeting, perhaps by chance, may occur in someone's life who they ostensibly aren't a spiritual seeker. They haven't been seeking for years, but there was an hour in their life in which they were totally open and honest, and in that moment, grace shone, and it affected them and changed them forever. So Bart Marshall's point is that, well, we should therefore try to spend more time in those moments of honesty and openness, because if grace is randomly dropping here and there, well, we're increasing the likelihood it might drop on us. You know, I work a very full-time job, and I have my reasons and desires that have led me to that place. And I, in my own life, have thought, oh, well, if I was just retired, I could do more TAT talks, or I could spend more time writing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, but if I'm honest about myself, I say, all right, well, here are the reasons that I'm not enslaved. I've made choices, and those choices are now manifesting in my life. And well, just let me be clear of this is why I am doing what I am doing. It's not because of this person or because of that person. Here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And given that, and it may be that maybe I have two desires. Given that, well, how am I going to structure my life to bring those desires to fruition? And what else is going on in my life, right? What are the little unconscious desires that may be operating in the background of my life that are chewing up time? Like here's a silly example, but it could be real for some people. Like, oh, I want my front yard to look really nice in my house so that my house looks really nice to people who drive by. And because of that, well, I either have to spend time working in the front yard, or I have to spend dollars having someone else work in the front yard to make it look really nice. Well, why in the heck do I actually care what my front yard looks like? Let me spend some time digging into that to solve what's the motivation behind that.
Oh,
Is that something that I can actually just kind of laugh about and say, in the big picture, that actually doesn't matter, and I'm not going to indulge in that anymore.
That's a really good example.
There's a lot of things like that in life that, why am I out in the driveway waxing my car for 3 hours? What's going on with that? Why am I shopping on Amazon for a new shirt? Do I actually need a new shirt, or is there something else going on behind that desire for something new? New shirt, new couch, whatever.
So if you do have those desires, not random, it happens constantly, whether it's something need or something want, doesn't mean does mean that you are distracted by those little desires for your path, for spiritual path?
Well, if what you really want is to look your best at all times, then no, you're not being distracted by looking for new clothing. That's exactly what you should be doing, is looking for new clothing and, making sure your car looks very nice. It's about, what is it? What are my priorities in life? What at the end of the day is going to bring me the most satisfaction? And then the spiritual path, we're talking about potentially eternal satisfaction or eternal completeness, not transient. So are they distractions? If what you truly are after is knowledge of your self, capital S self, knowledge of what you truly are, then yeah, they're distractions, because those things, you can look around you in the world and you can see people who have devoted their life to appearances. Well, how did they wind up? Where did that take them? And is that where you want to go? And, and appearances is an easy target, right?
Yes.
But there are many other forms of, knowledge, right? What's knowledge? I'm going to accumulate wisdom. I'm going to accumulate a library of books or videos or whatever. I'm going to be well read. I'm going to have, I'm going to be well traveled. I'm going to have a lot of experiences in life.
That was my past desires, wishes.
Yeah, right. So you've seen some of these things in your own life. And I don't know if it was probably Rose. He used to talk about, he would give the example of like when you were a kid and you played a game called marbles with other kids, and it seemed incredibly important. Like, I'm going to play this game, marbles, and I'm going to win the marbles. And as an adult, you look back upon it and you think, well, that was silly. It seemed so important, but it actually was just a game. We were just playing, but it seemed so important at the time. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, they don't see the game of their life until they're very old, when they're in their 70s or 80s, and they're looking back upon, and they see that a lot of it really wasn't that important, what they thought was important. And to me, it goes back to the why. Like, well, why is it? Like, I used to collect music. And I think they might have mentioned that in the intro. Like, I gave away all my vinyl records at a certain point. And it's because I realized that the reason that I collected this music was because I wanted to display to other people this wall of good taste and eclectic taste. I had a picture of myself that I wanted to present to the world. It wasn't that I actually was really enjoying at some deep level the music itself, or it was bringing me some great pleasure. I was building an image. I wanted to tell the story of myself through music to present it to other people. And I finally realized that this is just BS. Why am I spending all this time? Dude, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to get rid of that and relieve myself of this burden that I've created of maintaining this particular image. That was actually freeing. I do not know for you if photography is something where you go out and you're like, oh, I want to take this great photo and then I can put it up on my Instagram and all my friends will see it and they'll think how cool I am because I'm in this place. And, that's all story. Or if when you go out, there's beauty that you see in the world. And that beauty is in some way inspiring to you and brings up, brings up grace or brings up inspiration or brings up these questions, is a spiritual practice. Taking photographs can be a spiritual practice. Listening to music can be a spiritual practice. Nobody is defining what your practice has to look like. But you do want to be honest about why you're doing the things that you're doing. Are you creating stories, or are you exploring and trying to discover who you are?